over the last week, we've just seen so much stuff about cybersecurity and cyber attacks. And this is something that I find very, very interesting. I have plenty of friends who work in cybersecurity. It's one of the few industries that millennials seem to be doing incredibly well in. And it seems to be a great time to be working in the industry because there's so many attacks going on. So if we just take a look at a couple of the headlines from this week. This is from Reuters. Norway claims their parliament was attacked digitally by the Chinese Communist Party. Meanwhile, over in Ukraine, there was another big slew of attacks, which the Ukrainians have linked to Russia, of course, given the great conflict they have there. Now, there's plenty we can discuss here, John. I'd just like your take, sort of just taking the temperature of both of these things. What do you think is going on here, and what should we take from it? Because ultimately everyone's plugged into the internet these days, and the more of a war zone the internet becomes, it seems more dangerous for all of us.
Well, certainly, I mean, information warfare is as old as recorded, the recorded history of warfare. It always plays a role. That said, the role tends to be obscure, and it is in some cases probably never fully understood. In retrospect, it's lost, right? It's lost in the sands of time. And certainly today, I mean, given the internet is used for just about everything in some way, it's only understandable that there would be attempts at the state level, right, at the international level, to at least prepare for, if not necessarily execute, actions that would hopefully at least confuse, if not disable, one's opponents from being able to use the internet the way in which they would want to use it. Now, of course, there are private networks that exist, especially in the world of national defense, but it's worth pointing out that nevertheless, there are things that could be done that would be very disruptive. I mean, think about it. What if you find ways to disrupt the energy grid and electrical grid? What if you find ways to disrupt navigation tools and location tools? I mean, again, some of these things can be done totally off internet. And indeed, it's important that you have redundant systems that allow you to do that. But a lot of stuff, you can certainly mess around, right? And so when we think about cybersecurity, we usually think about private business, and yet it could well become something that in future becomes a primary, not just sort of incidental, secondary instrument of international warfare, kind of as you've said before, a fifth generation or fifth level or fifth dimension of warfare.
Yes, it does feel like this is going to be a really big theme in the 2020s. I feel that cybersecurity, while there's been plenty of chatter about it, rightfully so, ever since the noughties, really. But going through the 2010s, this became much, much more of a theme. You saw more publicly listed companies, which were in this space, which made it an investment theme as well. And now I do feel like it's going to be a really good time for cybersecurity investors, as well as people working in the cybersecurity industry. But this is generally not for a very good reason, right? It's like being in the business of making guided missiles.